So I just had to pry my hands off of my Xbox controller. I was just playing Star Wars Battlefront II, and yes, it is that addictive. It is mission accomplished, I think, for DICE and Motive and Criterion, all divisions of Electronic Arts, who brings us this game. It is a unbelievable hodgepodge of Star Wars goodness, and I think that was the goal here. They wanted to give us a little taste of everything. Obviously, sort of taking the next level and the next step off of the successful launch of the first Star Wars Battlefront game, which I loved, mostly because it gave me lots of Star Warsian joy. But of course, there were missing elements, and chief among those was the single-player campaign, which has been addressed this time, and it's actually pretty damn fun, introducing us to a new character named Iden Versio, who is now part of the lore, a part of the Star Wars canon. And basically what we get is a story that takes us from the end and the climactic scenes of Star Wars Return of the Jedi all the way up into the birth of the First Order. And we see lots and lots of little cool vignettes along the way. And of course, there are cameos with lots of very familiar Star Wars characters. There are twists and turns. There are tragedies that befall our heroine and some of the colleagues that she accumulates along the way. There's some backstabbing and betrayal, of course. It's a Star Wars soap opera, space opera, excuse me. And it fits right in line with what we've come to expect out of Star Wars tales. It would make for a pretty damn cool, animated show or a mini movie. I don't know if there's enough sort of story content there to kind of really pit this against the Star Wars movies, but it's definitely in that vein and it's in that direction. So kudos to all of the people that crafted the tale of Iden Versio for Star Wars Battlefront 2. It is a much welcome addition. Now, it's fun and it's cool and the story beats are interesting and the characters are well performed. I recognize, I think it's Paul Blackthorne from Arrow. He's got a pretty prominent role in there. I enjoyed all of that stuff. But the thing to remember about the campaign in a Battlefront game, just like the campaigns that we would see in a Battlefield game from DICE, is that they're really engineered to get us playing the multiplayer. They really just give us a taste of the ship-to-ship combat and all of the different mechanics that we get when we're running around on foot with our weaponry. There are definitely battles in ships that take place over land as opposed to out in space, and then you can land the craft and get out and on foot action and sort of mix and match a little bit, giving us a taste of galactic conquest. But really, it's kind of engineered to give us a taste of all of the modes that you get when you really get into the meat of the experience, which is multiplayer. And so that being said, the campaign, while cool and decent, it doesn't stand up to some fantastic single-player experiences, but it's pretty damn cool nonetheless. Now, that's not to say that the action isn't epic, because the action absolutely is epic. That's the single-player sort of tastes of the expansiveness of the experience, but also definitely in multiplayer. Of course, the crown jewel of the game is Galactic Conquest. This is when you have 20 versus 20, so 40 players, and you've got, all kinds of battles and objectives to get to on the ground. You've got to take positions and hold positions, and you've got pilots flying overhead and bombing you while you're on the ground. There's lots and lots of chaos everywhere, and that's super fun. But for me personally, the standout mode in this game is Starfighter Assault, which picks up the ship-to-ship battles that Criterion worked on for the first Star Wars Battlefront game. This time we've got a lot of different objectives, so we're, covering capital ships that might be getting strafed by bombers. You got to take out specific targets over here. You got to fly into ships and blow up generators and things like that. It's absolutely astounding and epic. You also have way more control of your craft, so you can do all kinds of really cool roll moves. We've seen the trailers for this game, and we've seen, the dogfighting that's going on, and you really get that exhilarating action. You really get that feeling like you're, just skimming the surface of giant star destroyers and zipping past other craft and flipping and flying and shooting other ships or, destroying your objective just in the nick of time. There are tons of moments like that in Starfighter Assault. It is absolutely incredible. My hope is that it becomes a standalone option, maybe as something that you can purchase separately independently or expands into a broader, more full-fledged standalone game, that would be incredible. And especially if EA and Criterion get their heads together and say, yeah, we're going to go forward and make this a VR experience, that would blow my mind. You also get some smaller kinds of variants on the whole Galactic Conquest, smorgasbord. You can actually jump in for smaller objective-based missions called strike combat battles, which are pretty fun. They actually take a lot of the sort of more overt ship-to-ship stuff, and they shrink it down a little bit. There's less people on the playing field. There's less stuff flying all over the place. The battles are super intense, and you still get a little bit of that objective stuff on there. You know what? I think this game is fantastic, and I know what you're thinking, but what about the loot crates, and what about all of the in-game microtransactions? How gross are they? And I gotta tell you, they are a little too overt. They're in my face a little bit too much. You get daily loot crates, of course, for every time that you jump in, and you unlock credits and stuff that will allow you to buy and purchase more crates in there. Of course, you can spend real-world dollars on them. And unfortunately, what you get from the crates sometimes includes these star cards, which are either, latent boosters that you get with your character, and you can have them just sort of always activated, and then there are also special weaponry star cards or special ability star cards that you can collect, and you can fuse star cards together and you can craft them as you go. You earn this crafting currency in there, and the loot crates give you access to all of that stuff. And you can't get the best stuff in the game, but you can sort of spend your way to get much better than the rest of the people on the playing field. And there's a couple of major problems with this. One of them is that this is a game that's really meant to appeal to everybody, and I think the design of it really does. I think anybody can jump in and have a lot of fun with all of this stuff. But the star card system and all of the best abilities and even the hero characters that you can unlock are all sort of engineered to be there for people that spend a lot of time, either earn the loot to buy that stuff in-game or spend some real money and go that route. But they're really kind of set up for being the best players in the game, and that means that a lot of the people that are going to struggle, a lot of the casuals, a lot of the people that don't have the time, they love Star Wars, but they just don't have the time in their life to devote to getting really good at this thing, they won't be able to be the best characters from Star Wars, possibly. It depends how you attack this game. It's very versatile. But when you're playing multiplayer matches, if you haven't earned the currency to, say, unlock, Luke Skywalker or something like that, you won't be able to be him. And the other way that you unlock these characters when you're playing the game, when you're actually in the throes of Galactic Conquest, you get these battle points, and you spend these battle points on specific, either better units, like when you're playing with the sort of the Clone Wars era, you get these super battle droids or rocket battle droids that can, fly and do all kinds of cool maneuvers. And then that goes all the way up to some of the Jedi heroes and stuff like that. And so you have to be good to earn the battle points that let you have the most enjoyment, the most fun out of the game. And that's a little disconcerting. So there's kind of all of these ways that you get kind of at least challenged from being able to access all the good stuff. And then what's going to happen is people that are, ready to drop tons of dough is they're going to have access to all this good stuff, and that's going to make them psycho killers out on the field, and they're going to get all the battle points, and it's like this cycle, right? And I almost miss, even though I thought it was a little crazy and random, I almost miss the opportunity to just run up to icons on the playing field, and it was sort of everybody chasing to, jump into an X-Wing in the Galactic Conquest mode or whatever, like we did for Star Wars Battlefront 1, and I know that there were a lot of issues with that. You are going to be able to feast on this, and from my vantage point, it is incredibly addictive. I'm talking about it, and I want to go back to it. I think the addition of different character classes and being able to level those up and level the weapons up, all fantastic. We've seen that before in other shooters. All of the new ships that are unlockable, like including Yoda's Starfighter and stuff like that, super cool. This is a remarkable game that is hampered a little bit by the way that EA and DICE and everybody else is going to start to generate real revenue from it, and it's a little unfortunate. Do I think the game sucks because of that? No way. Do I think that it gets a little bit of a blemish on the experience? Yeah, I do. And do I think that people that don't have the hours and the hours or the extra cash after they spend their, $80 to get this game initially and aren't prepared to spend on loot crates to zip through the experience a little bit quicker are going to be complaining about that? Do I think that they have a right to complain about that? Yeah, I do. Absolutely. But this is still a phenomenal Star Wars experience. There is a tremendous amount of content in there. The campaign is going to take you, a good 6 hours or so, maybe more if you try to find everything. And then, of course, you can, go back and play it again and hunt through and find all the little extra secrets and stuff that are in there. And I'm really liking this idea that the maps will be free and new content will be free, including single-player stuff. So it's a great game. It's an awesome game. Some, issues, and hopefully EA and DICE hears, some of the valid complaints, and they continue to kind of adapt the mechanics, and they continue to kind of make it a little more fair for everybody that doesn't want to spend an inordinate amount of time or an inordinate amount of money to progress. But God, this is amazing, and hats off especially. I mean, the graphics, you can see them here, but the music and sound effects, the audio department that put this game together, chills, man. So much fun. I'm going to give Star Wars Battlefront II a 9 out of 10.